Let's talk a little bit further about compound effects. For that, I'm going to create a whole new composition. I'll click on the new comp icon here at the bottom of the project panel. And I'll make it NTSC-DV, that's fine. And I'm just going to name it water, because that's what we're creating. I'll click OK. Now I'm going to create a solid and I'll add an effect to it. Layer, new, solid. The color doesn't really matter. So if it's blue, it's fine. If it isn't, that's fine too. And I'm just going to name this layer Waves. And there it is. In the Effects and Presets panel, I'm just going to type in the word wave. And here it is. It's Wave World. I'll apply it to the solid. And there it is. The first thing that we see is that it's showing us a wireframe preview. So let's go ahead and change that. Let's click here and change it to a height map. Now these waves are being produced by two producers, producer 1 and producer 2. Producer 2 is by default turned off, and we're not going to play with that. We're just going to work with producer 1 because we're doing a very simple wave or water effect. Let's go ahead and expand producer 1, and you see that it has position parameter, so I can keyframe the position and then just move it here in the composition panel. I'll move in time and I'll change the position so that the waves move. And I can keep on moving these however I want to. And finally I'll end here. Let me create a really quick ramp preview of this. And there it is. It doesn't look too wavy yet because the layer is grayscale. So I'll go ahead and stop. This is going to be the control layer for a different compound effect. So I am going to pre-compose this layer so that I can work with it as a control layer for the other effect. Remember, it cannot see any effects applied to the layer, which is why we need to pre-compose it. To pre-compose it, just select the layer and go under Layer, Pre-compose, or use the shortcut, which is select the layer or layers, and is Shift-Command-C on the Mac and Shift-Control-C on Windows. Make sure that for this, the Move All Attributes into the new composition is selected. And I'll just name this Waves Pre-Comp. And I'll click OK. And there you go. Now I'm going to create a new solid. You can create a new solid on the layer New Solid or use the shortcut, which is Command or Control Y. This time the color of the solid matters, so it's already blue and I want water, so it's perfect. I'm just going to name this solid Water. And there you go. I'm going to add a caustics effect to this layer. So under the Effects and Presets panel, I'll type in the word caustics. And there it is, and I'll just drag it to the layer. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to indicate to the effect who the control layer for the water is. So in the Effect Controls panel, I'll expand the water parameter, and the water surface, I'll choose the Waves Pre-Comp. When I do that, if I start scrubbing, you will see the waves already. I'm just going to adjust these parameters a little bit. I'll change the wave height, something a little bit higher, and the smoothing values to something a little bit smoother. And let's go ahead and perform a ramp preview here. And that doesn't look too bad. But we're talking about compound effects, so let's go ahead and talk about the bottom. Let's imagine we're making a pool commercial and this is the end tag. We want to put the logo of the pool company at the bottom of the pool. So I'm going to go to the project panel and choose the pool logo. And here it is. And again, you have these files on your project files. I'm going to drag this to the timeline Remember, to use a control layer, it needs to live in the composition, so it needs to live in the timeline, and it doesn't need to be visible, but it needs to live in there. So I'm just going to go ahead and drag this down, and I'll click on the water layer. Let's go to the Effect Controls panel. And the bottom parameter of caustics is what I need to use now, where I'm going to choose who the bottom layer is. And in this case, it's going to be the poollogo.ai. And there it is. I can see some edges in here. So I'm going to go ahead and choose if layer size differs. See where it says center? I'm going to choose stretch to fit. And there you go. Now, all I have to do is create a RAM preview, and you're going to see that the water of the waves is going to distort the pixels of the pool logo. And that's not too bad. You can change the amount of distortion by changing the water depth. So deeper water will cause more distortion, and more shallow water, less distortion. Kind of like a shallow pool versus a very deep pool. You can also have a sky, which is another compound effect part of this effect. So you could choose a layer to be, say, the clouds of the sky. We won't do that in this example, but you can change the lighting. So we can change the light type from distance source to a point source, for example, and we can even move this light source, say, to a side of the pool. We can change the light intensity, the color, and everything else. And if you perform a RAM preview here, you're going to see that the light changes as the waves hit the water. So this is a perfect example of how compound effects work, because we can use so many different layers to affect so many different parameters, and the effect is just spectacular.